Sunshine's Corner, being brought to you by Quint and Studer.
And it is a beautiful morning, and I welcome you into the hottest spot in town, that is Sunshine's Corner. And as always, you know, I allow you to be a part of the conversation. Why? Because I strongly believe that if there's anything that we need to come up with a greater solution, we can all talk about it. And that's what we do here. We are your information network for the community. And today, we've got a gentleman that's going to be on with us, and I am so thrilled with the fact of what I'm learning also about things that I was not aware of that's going on right here in the community that's also beneficial for you. And I'm talking about none other than Mr. Quint Studer. And I tell you, I thank you so much, Quint, for getting up early in the morning to come on down. Let's talk about some great things today.
I'm excited to be here and excited for the conversation.
Thank you so much. And everybody, let me tell you what I had the opportunity to experience just a little over a week ago. You've heard us talk about Light Up Learning. You've heard us talk about the things with SCI. You've heard us talk about so many things that Quint Studer is behind. But there was a statement that he made at an event that we had last week. And he said that if there was anything that he wanted to be remembered for, it would be Light Up Learning. And I think with what I'm learning as far as that, because at first I didn't understand the, when you would say a child, they learn the most from birth to 3 years old. But now I see behind this, because I believe that knowledge is power. And the more I learn and I see how important, I understand why you said what you said when you said that last week. I want you to just share those thoughts, because some people don't know anything about Light Up Learning, what it's all about.
Well, Light Up Learning is really the fundraiser name, but what it comes down to is, and this was new to me, you would think I'd know this. You know, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in education from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater.
Right.
I spent 10 years working in education. My job was what they call a special ed, vocational ed coordinator. And it was finding and helping businesses hire people that might have a rough time getting a job.
Right.
And it takes a little longer, maybe some adjustments. So if you come to a Blue Wahoo game, you'll actually see that we work real hard on giving people opportunities that might not have opportunities in the past. So I'm knowledgeable of education, but not to this point. I used to be, if somebody asked me about education, I talk about public education. I talk about the big terms are third grade reading and fourth grade math. Because there's some data that shows if a child's not reading at the third grade level, by third grade is going to be rough for the rest of the school.
Absolutely.
Fourth grade math is the same. And as we know, if a child gets behind, they already sit in the classroom knowing they're behind.
Right.
Then they fall behind, and all of a sudden you're in high school and you realize you're not going to graduate on time. Well, you quit.
Right.
And you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to sit there. So I sort of got it, but not to the point where the light bulb went on. And the light bulb went on when Studer Community Institute, which is not-for-profit, did a dashboard. And the dashboard had quality life indicators. And there were indicators like median income, those type of basic quality life indicators, high school graduation, and so on. And kindergarten readiness got on there.
Right.
And we're fortunate to live in Florida. And to the credit of Jeb Bush and other governors since then, we have standardized kindergarten readiness. You might think, isn't that normal? No, it is not. So, for example, Wisconsin, which I'm familiar with, doesn't measure kindergarten readiness.
Okay.
And I think sometimes you don't want to measure stuff you might not do well in.
Right.
You know, or schools don't want to be compared. So we measure it. And I didn't think much of it until I saw the results. And the results came out, and they showed that Escambia County was the 43% of our children are ready for kindergarten. And being a loving public education, loving all teachers, I'm thinking, wow. I knew what it was like in my classroom, but it was expected these children were behind because they were in special education. But you're a kindergarten teacher, and only 4 out of your 10 kids are ready. That means you're spending a lot of time getting children that aren't behind trying to catch up.
Absolutely.
While you're trying to catch them up, the ones that are possibly could fall behind because they're not get the attention.
Exactly.
So it hit me so strongly.
Exactly.
This whole deal is that I went and looked at it and said, okay, what does this mean? I think there's out of all the counties in Florida, we were near the bottom. So is that impactful? So Shannon Nickinson, who worked for me at the time, now she works at IHMC, started researching it. She's a smart person, graduated from Northwestern University, and she got connected with Dana Susskind, who's a cochlear implant surgeon at the Comer Children's Hospital, part of the University of Chicago. And most of you, if you ever watch videos, you see where the child gets the cochlear implant and they hear for the first time.
Oh God, yes, I've seen that.
And they smile. That's great, but what she was curious about is, will that child catch up?
Right.
Because they're not hearing till a certain age.
Right.
So she started doing some research, which led her to some other research, and she published a book called 30 Million Words.
That is amazing.
And what it basically shows is children's brains, and this is all new, and for the people that I've learned this, a child, you know, when we see the brain, we see all those divots, that's not how a child's born. The brain is totally smooth when a child is born.
Really?
And by listening and hearing, then those divots come into the brain. Those are where neurons sit. So the more words I hear, it's like building a muscle, I build the brain. And children that hear more words, they're going to optimize. So 80 to 80, and this is all medical research.
Of course.
80 to 85% of the brain's ability to learn is developed by age 3. And think about that. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be doing calculus at age 3, but the potential to learn.
But of course.
So if that's true, if 80 to 85% of the brain's developed by age 3, shouldn't we be spending 80 to 85% of our time and resources on 0 to 3? We don't, because it doesn't, you know, you have lobbyists, and you know, K through 12 needs money. If you look at Escambia Children's Trust, majority of the money goes to kindergarten and above, and I get that. We haven't asked for any, but so what do you do with the 0 to 3? So we brought Dana Susskind to town.
I remember.
And we brought her to town, and she met with people. Then she went to Washington High and did a big event, and I just sat there and kept learning. So one of the things they were doing at the University of Chicago at the time is they were going out into the community, because they're in a pretty impoverished area, and trying to get to young moms to show them a video.
Absolutely.
To show them the video that they were testing to see how can they educate a mom to see what she's up to and what she's doing.
Most certainly. I tell you what, we're going to run and take a break real quick.
Please.
And when we go and take this break, we're going to come back and talk more with Quint Studer about all of this, just how important it is that we know the knowledge that we can pass on to our children even before you think. Don't come with the pookie. Learn all these real words to talk with the kids. Stay with us. We're going to go to break and come back with you more right here on Sunshine's Corner.
Good day, Pensacola. Welcome to a new segment on health and wellness sponsored by Baptist Healthcare in partnership with Sunshine's Corner. Every first Wednesday of the month during Sunshine's telecast, we're going to be bringing you information about health and wellness and ways to make sure we're improving the quality of your health care here in Pensacola. After all, we want to ensure that you're going to the right place at the right time and for the right reason, and that you don't feel alone. Can't wait to see you.
Do you have a house that you want to turn into cash? I'm Mike with Mullet Man Buys Houses from Pensacola, Florida. Maybe you inherited a house, are facing foreclosure, have tenant issues, or the house is in general disrepair. I buy houses cash, in as-is condition, and close in as little as 3 weeks. I can provide you a competitive offer the same day I walk through your house. With Mullet Man Buys Houses, you can find the easy solution to put cash in your hand as quickly as possible.
Many who consider facial plastic surgery are concerned their results will look unnatural. But with over 20 years of serving the Pensacola community, his thousands of satisfied patients have made Dr. Derek Jones a trusted reconstructive and facial plastic surgeon known for industry-leading results that look natural. Call 850-484-FACE to schedule a consultation at one of our locations in Pensacola and Gulf Breeze.
I'm Dr. Derek Jones. Trust your face to a facial plastic surgeon.
At Pensacola Habitat for Humanity, we believe every child should have a safe place to grow. That's why we work with you and the community to build not just a house, but a home.
She worked very hard to get this house. I really appreciate that because, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now.
when you help build a home, you build a future. Pensacola Habitat for Humanity.
And welcome back to the hottest spot in town. This is Sunshine's Corner on this Thursday edition. And of course, not Thursday. Today is Wednesday. I'm moving it a little bit ahead. But the fact of it is, I am so elated to have Quint Studer on with us today to share the knowledge. I strongly believe, I say it to you every day, that knowledge is power. And what we're learning today, I think is absolutely, I ask you the question, is it in Montgomery yet? You heard I added that part. See, because when I have to say, I got to speak in Montgomery. I'm speaking in front of, with the Board of Education coming up in May. And I wondered, I wonder if part of this was presented in that speech, because I'm going to have so many people there. Would that be a factor?
Well, I think that the challenge, and let's go back to Dana again, and then I'll come back to your question. So Dana came to Pensacola. We were really excited. Pretty famous person, probably the national expert on kids' brain development. And you got University of Chicago, which is well known.
Of course.
And actually the School of Economics at the University of Chicago, which is where Nobel Prize winners hang out, got interested in this. Because in their research, they believe that early education is the key to success. And they actually can show a return on investment for it using their terms. And so it's sort of a combination, the School of Economics and the medical school. So Dana came down and she explained what they were going out into the community, trying to get young mothers, particularly in impoverished areas, watching this video to learn about the power of building the brain. But it was very difficult because sometimes the moms weren't comfortable opening the door. Sometimes they weren't at the address they had given. Sometimes they had moved. And so she just said they were having difficulty reaching the moms. And I said, what if the moms got the education prior to leaving the hospital? And she said, do you think you could do that? So I said, I do, because I knew all the CEOs at the hospitals. And so we became, Escambia County became what they call a beta site for the University of Chicago's research. And what they did is they have a video, and I know we talk a lot about brain bags, but let's not talk about them today. Because they're not the key.
Of course, I agree.
It's like give a book doesn't count if they don't teach the people how to use it.
Absolutely.
So the key is the video. So they took 1,200 moms and they all watched the video. And then they tracked those moms for 3 years. And they didn't want them to get any other resources because they wanted to say, is the video and is this work? Because they can't go to every city and say you need to give a book, you need to give a bag, you need to do this. So we probably are one of the only places in community. We have peer-reviewed research from medical doctors that say this works. This works. Now we do other things in the hospital, some of it better than others, and that is the mom gets an opportunity to watch a video. I think though over the years it drifted. I think, you know, it's not here's a QR code, it's not here's a bag, because the brain bag got so much publicity, which is nice, that people thought the way to build a brain is give the mom a bag. And it has great stuff in it. And it has an early steps book on how to track brain development. They can get a newsletter. So we started doing this, and it's gone, Escambia County has gone from 43% of children being ready for kindergarten to 50%.
Wonderful.
Now that's not great. That's a nice improvement. But one of the things we have found that our goal this year is not to say there's a direct correlation, but only 50% of the moms in our hospitals are watching the video. So our goal this year is to get it to 100%.
Oh, wow.
Now that means we have to help the clinical people see the value of the video. So for example, when you have a baby in a hospital, and I'm familiar with, I never had a baby, but I've been in but I've been in hospitals. There's some legalities that you have to do. So for example, a child has to get a hearing test. And then those hearing test results have to be provided to the mom and the family. Usually there's a tutorial on how to bathe your baby. There's a tutorial on the umbilical cord. If there's a circumcision, there's what to do with the circumcision. And probably breastfeeding is another thing that people get tutored on, because it's not natural. How to do it and so on. So it's interesting that we work so hard on the brain down, on the neck down, but we're not working as hard on the neck up, so outside the hearing. So our goal this year, we've hired Paige, who's Vanderbilt, Michigan. She's in town now. We're very excited to really help the hospitals increase that number. And that means helping all the clinicians see what an impact this can have, because you can change the life of someone.
Right.
And there's also research that shows now if you're 3 months behind going to kindergarten, catching up is easier. If you're 22 months behind,
more difficult.
You'll never catch up.
Right.
It's over. Now that's tragic to say, but to catch up when you're that far behind, and at Light Up Learning we have the kindergarten teacher.
Oh God, yeah.
That spoke and talked about how sad it is when a child comes to kindergarten not ready.
Right.
And so our whole Studer Community Institute, closing the loop on this, John A. List, who's the #1 downloaded researcher in the world from the University of Chicago, he's in the economics department. He wrote the foreword to my book, Building Vibrant Communities, and he says that if you want to know the future of a community, look at kindergarten readiness.
Wow.
Because that's your talent base.
Exactly.
So if you're going to grow a community, it's all about talent. And when I studied community, building a vibrant community, what's many times left out is this.
Right.
So when I go to a community, like I was in Elkins, West Virginia last week, and the hospital there, Davis, and Ron, the CEO, as soon as I told him this, he said, we'll do this.
Really?
So it's nice to talk to the Board of Education. That's all good, but the key is the hospitals.
I hear you.
The key is to get the mom before she's discharged.
Right.
So every mom that watches the video, which is 50%, gets a survey. And the survey basically talks about, prior to watching this video, how much did you know about how to build a baby's brain? And after watching the video, where are you at now? Where are you at before and after?
I got you.
And you wait till they see it.
Right.
And we see increases from, depending where the mom's at. Sometimes, usually when a mom leaves, she's at a 10-point scale, high 8s, low 9s.
Okay.
When they come in, they can be 6 or 7. And we've even found moms that come in really prepared to build their baby's brain still get a little something out of it.
Okay.
So they might go from an 8 to a 9.
Okay.
So Gracie Price, congratulations. She just had a little baby here last week.
Okay.
And she's really bright. And when she had her daughter a couple of years ago, she watched the video and she called me and said, you know what? I walked in really knowing how to build a baby's brain.
Wonderful.
But I still got something out of it.
I hear you.
And so everybody can learn from this. So that's really when I say that, if you want to change, John List in a video said if Escambia County is successful in this, then not only change Escambia County, they can change the world.
I hear you. Now, I say you had to educate with the nurses, the doctors, and everything there, the participation here, what percentage is that? Are they very?
It's only 50%.
Okay, but was it hard to get them to understand the value?
I think it's us. I don't think we did it right because it was our first one.
Okay.
So I think we depended on volunteers, which are great, but they don't, optional. So we take this to other cities now.
Okay, I understand.
So when
totally.
I go speak in hospitals,
right?
Like I was in Vandalia Health last week, 17 hospitals. I was in West Virginia Health last week, which has like a lot of hospitals. Once I present the data, the hospitals grab it because it's so inexpensive. Because remember, for most things when you start, you're searching for government money or other money to support the staffing of it. And the biggest cost is labor.
Right.
This is no labor cost because the staff's already there.
Yes.
Staff's already in the room. So we also learned that we have to be a little more not so passive. So you just can't say, here's a QR code, look at it. The original intent, which we're getting back to, was to give the mother an iPad and explain to her, this is to help you understand how to build the brain.
Okay.
And 80 to 85% of your child's building the brain is going to happen right now.
Okay.
And when you watch the video, it's all about talking to the child, those types of things. And the challenge today, and everybody watching this will agree, if you don't, call me at 232-4648. Children are hearing less words because the words are the spoken words not the video word. And with iPhones today, how many times have you seen parents with a young child and they're on the phone not talking to the child? And that's why we try to build learning into the environment.
Right.
That's why we built the early learning. If anybody hasn't ever been there, if you've got a child or a grandchild under 3, we built the first early learning garden in the United States. It's downtown, Bayland and Maine, and it's all built for sensory. And again, that gets you commuting. The kaleidoscope kids can look at, the butterfly. So that's it, you know, and once the light turned on for me, it just goes nuts. I mean, when I see parents pushing a child and the stroller's facing this way, it's not as effective as the stroller facing this way, because now I'm talking.
Absolutely.
Those types of things that you just learn.
I want to go a little bit further. In the Black community, how is it being received with the Blacks, girls, the same rate as it is other communities? I
think they actually do better, because if it's explained right, they're all into it. You know, when I first started this Sonshine, I got a little pushback. Now, it's interesting. One person actually wrote a letter to the editor, a military admiral, or said, this is what we need. He said, if we want to save America, we got to have people that can enter the military and pass everything, and more people can't pass it.
Right.
So he talked about this as actually a great kindergarten readiness. Now, I had other people that maybe sort of took some shots at me.
Oh, really?
Like, well, they thought they were going to pay for it. Right?
Okay.
Why should we pay for this? Well, so I've spoken to groups, and you know, I've had people raise their hand and say, well, the problem is all these single moms. Well, I can't run a Match.com here and get everybody hooked, you know, married or something. But you know, it's the single moms, or it's this, or they have 8 kids or 3 kids and 2 different. It was very judgmental.
Of course.
And so when I speak to groups, and I will say to them, and this is an actual research. When you look at research, all the research had a very wide diversity of people. There were 17-year-old moms. There were 18-year-old moms having their second kid.
Wow.
And there were 37-year-old wealthy moms having their first. So, wow, they had nothing in common. Race, income, where they lived. If you look at them, they have nothing in common. Except their one thing they all had in common is they all loved their child and wanted the best for their child. So when it's explained to, you know, Miss Moore, we can help make sure your child doesn't live in poverty.
Okay.
And one of the ways we can do that is by build your child's brain.
Okay.
Here's how to build your brain. We've had mothers, after watching the video, cry because they wish they had seen it sooner, so they could have done this with their older children.
Unbelievable. I had the opportunity to go out and tour.
That's right. You were boots on the ground, or heels on the ground.
And I went in, and I had the opportunity to talk with some of the young mothers who had just delivered. And with the nurses, as they were talking to them, and I was watching the expressions, the joy. And there was a young lady who had just had a baby, but she had a 9-year-old that was benefiting also from what she was learning for that new baby. And the excitement, she was a young Black girl. And then the next family I went to in the hospital was a young white couple. The mom and the dad, they had just had their first child. But the excitement that were in the both.
Well, the video is pretty interesting because the video basically shows, it's not a lecture, but first of all, it shows what I just told you about the brain,
but of course,
the divots, because we want to give the medical reason why we're doing this.
Exactly.
But it also talks about, which I didn't do, you know, when my children were born, I wanted to change diapers like I was a NASCAR pit crew. You know, how do you do these things? You know, that was my goal, speed. I wanted to read the book fast. I was mad when they got smart enough they knew I was skipping pages. And when you watch the video, it shows fathers, for example, changing the baby and talking to the baby. Why I'm moving your right leg, your left leg. Let me take these blue pants off. They show people walking and going to a walk and a manhole cover and explaining that's a circle.
Right.
Or a pine tree and saying that's a triangle.
I hear you.
Showing things and saying that's a square. They show how to build education into the daily activities with your child. And you might think it comes naturally, but today it might not, because you see kids just popped in front of an iPad.
And that raises them.
And that doesn't it's the back and forth communication which builds
the hands-on that I was raised with, the hands-on what my mother and father took with me, that's not there anymore.
Well, I think what it is, sometimes when I talk to young adults or older adults, but young adults, because we employ a lot of them at the Wahoos and that, and I know they were raised in a tough economic area, but here they're doing extremely well. And I'll say to them, gee, when you were young, anybody ever read to you and they told my grandmother or my aunt or my mother or my father, they all had somebody or somebodies who spent a lot of time with them, which is another challenge in town here.
Oh, yes, it
with
is.
with child care. So many parents have their children child care, and they have to financially. But you have a child care lack of access to child care.
Right.
If you lack of access to child care, so some of it might be paid for, but however, a young mom who's financially strapped can't say, let me go do this, let me go do that. And then also, I think we've got to commit to helping our child care workers make more money.
Certainly.
They're mostly minimum wage, and there's a lot of turnover. So one of the things we really want to do over the next year is go into all the child care centers and teach the child care workers how to build a baby's brain. So when we first got into this, we had something called Alina, I think it's called. So we experimented in child care centers. You put it on a child and you can tell how many words they're hearing.
Okay.
So a mom can look on her phone and say, gee, it's Tuesday.
Okay.
Nobody's talking to my kid.
Okay.
Or wow, isn't this great? Look how much contact. So again, I think we don't, this is my viewpoint. I think we love treating symptoms because we have to. Symptoms are kids not ready for kindergarten.
Right. Symptoms
are 3rd grade reading, 4th grade math. Symptom is child in 8th grade and they're not ready for high school. Problem is, when they graduate from high school. We just saw a lawsuit recently where a high school graduate suing the school system for graduating and not knowing how to read.
Oh my.
So, but we treat symptoms, and those have to be treated. I mean, if I have a symptom, I have to be treated.
Right.
But eventually the doctor will say, why don't we do some prevention here? You keep coming in, why don't we do prevention?
I hear you.
And
I see your scenario.
what we're trying to do is prevent them not being ready for kindergarten, 3rd grade reading, 4th grade math. So we have a chance here to treat the cause, and we've been very fortunate. We've had people interested in this. Alex Andrade, when he's always tried to get some appropriation to help us a little bit. My wife and I fund a lot of this right now. But I'm very excited because right now we know it's one focus, and the one focus is more moms watching the video.
Okay, I understand totally. And ladies and gentlemen, we're having a great conversation here, and I'd like you to be a part of this conversation. Possibly you're learning something that you were not aware of. And I believe, and I'll say it till I can't say it anymore, knowledge is power. Once you get it, apply it. Stay with us. We've got more coming to you from Quint Studer right here on Sunshine's Corner.
You finally found the perfect car in racing blue. You even got them to throw in the LED fog lights for free. Auto Owners insures your car because some people never learn to parallel park. That's simple human sense.
Ask the Messick Insurance Agency in Pensacola if Auto Owners make sense for you.
Keep going, more. No, stop!
There are many reasons someone may need in-home care, whether it may be respite care, them recovering from surgery, or having a chronic condition. Having someone dedicated and reliable is imperative. Supplemental Support Care Services was created to provide to those who are in need with quality care that they deserve in the home. Taking it a step further, our main goal is to ensure that Supplemental Support Care Services is where the love and care is top priority.
I'm Emily Echeverria, Marketing Communications Director for Council on Aging of West Florida and the host of Coming of Age. Watch our show to find out what we're doing for our seniors and their families, and hear from area experts and local business owners about their programs and services. Want to help? Find out how you can work with us to bring a better future to our seniors. Watch Coming of Age, 3:30 p.m. Wednesdays, only on Blab TV.
Early in life, Tony found a love for craftsmanship through building furniture. Growing up in cabinet shops, he was drawn towards custom cabinetry, designing, and creating new and functional spaces, and to be able to share that passion with his clients, helping them turn their ideas into something special, making sure you get more for your investment.
Every kitchen and bath starts with your unique vision. I just bring it to life.
Master-built cabinets, beautifully handcrafted and customer designed.
And welcome back to this beautiful edition of Knowledge that's being shared with you right here at Sunshine's Corner. Talking with Quint Studer, I mean, the knowledge that I'm receiving, as you can see, I'm just sitting here and I'm absorbing everything for the stuff that I'm learning so that I'll be able to even talk about this more. I feel the more I talk about it in my community, I think that more will understand, because I have heard different things by being in the community. I don't think that happens that early, but yes, it does. I'm learning this, and that's a way that I can be a part of sharing knowledge, because I am, now when it came down to the part when you were talking about with the 30,000 words that's not used.
30 million.
Million words that's not used. And I've always been this way, and I have a young lady that I run, don't go to that baby. Hi, Pookie. Hi, Sugar. Hi. Talk to her full sentence. That child is going to speak, say what it hears, you know? And I think that's great, because I believe the more words, the better. I believe that.
Also, it's a community. I know I've talked a lot about the hospitals, because that makes sense, because mom's in the hospital.
Absolutely.
But if you're involved in church, this video is 5 minutes long. Any minister in town could show this video at a church service, because there's some great churches in this community.
Yes,
there's some huge churches.
Yes, it is.
Now, I remember years ago, I feel bad he's passed away, Reverend Yates.
Oh, God, wasn't he?
Asked me to come to Zion Hope Primitive Baptist Church.
Yes.
So I saw it started like at a certain time, like 11 or 12. So he said, you should get here about 11. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that's like an hour early. I'm not used to that.
I know. So, you're at home by that time, right?
So I got there, and I was stunned at how many people were there. And then I sat down between two, at the time, probably my age, elderly ladies, and my arms were tired by the time church started from clapping and singing.
We praise the Lord.
It was packed.
Yes.
And man, was he wonderful. I mean, I just love Reverend Yates. When I was chairman of the board of Sacred Heart, I made sure he got on the board.
Right.
And man, what a powerful thing that would be for a minister to play that 5-minute video and talk about what we can do here in the community.
Absolutely.
So I don't think it has to just be, you know, and maybe what we can do, Sunshine, is we'll send you the video, and maybe someday you want to run it on your show.
Exactly.
It's 5 minutes long, and it's not meant for a person to explain the video. The video is self-explanatory.
It's self-explanatory. Exactly.
And it just shows fathers, it shows mothers, it shows people just how important the word is.
Most certainly. And you know, that's a great idea also, because there's one thing I know about my community, that church, we're going to be there. I mean,
it's church.
I mean, we're going to have that church. I mean, but to do that, we won't tire you too much out from praising the Lord before you hear the word.
You got Lonnie Wesley, you got wonderful people out there.
Oh, yes. Hey, Pastor Wesley.
great churches out there. So if you're looking at, particularly in the black community, to move through the churches would be real powerful. I think to get into our child care centers. And that's really with Ready Kids, who does a great job, and other people. And I know Mayor Reeves is really, I talked to him the other day, and you know, he's doing so many great things, but he also is very, very, very concerned about child care right now.
Okay.
So he brought back a whole packet from the U.S. Mayor's Conference.
Oh, really?
And how can we as a community offer more child care, and sometimes in better child care for families.
Most certainly.
And it's expensive. Sometimes a young family you know, it's all connects together. There's just not one thing. However, I do think the one thing if we nail is getting those moms before they leave the hospital.
Exactly.
Knowing, but let's not say, well, because only 50% have seen the video.
Right.
And we have over 5,000 births, so in Escambia County alone. So again, I think in the community, if other people can show this video, utilize the video, it's all, we'll let you use it. We're not asking for money or anything.
Right, just want to get the knowledge out, the information.
Yeah, we're I think making progress in pediatricians' offices.
Right.
Because one of the things we find is mothers are really good at well baby checks. They show up for well baby checks, and we have wonderful pediatricians in our community.
Most certainly.
And what in Lafayette, Louisiana, the pediatricians actually grabbed this, and they made sure that they started showing the video in their waiting rooms. So when people are waiting to go in to see the pediatrician,
good idea.
They're seen in the waiting room. Because most physicians, almost all, now have an electronic health record, and it can queue you up.
Right.
And it can queue up the questions about building a brain when a mom comes in. So again, we should be really pleased. We've gone from 43% to 50%. We're still in the bottom half of counties.
Right.
But we've moved up. But it's not about scores or numbers or percentages. It's making sure every child has the, you know, I was a special ed teacher.
That opportunity.
The whole goal was to optimize every child's human potential. And I think our goal as a community, no matter how old you are, is to hopefully optimize everyone's human potential.
I agree with that 100% because this is my statement that I use often. They are our tomorrow, so we got to implant in them that's needed to take it in the direction that it needs to go. And I believe with learning, education is the key. And if it's that baby from 0 to 3, then we should plant that in them.
And it's also fair to our school teachers, and I know I keep saying public, but there is a difference. If I'm sending my child to a private school and I'm paying for that private school, I'm probably a little more engaged already.
Okay.
I mean, it's different.
Right.
And I've already made that decision.
Right.
And many even require you to be involved.
Right.
So our public school teachers work really, really hard.
They do.
And I want to give them the greatest potential to have their best impact, which is to make sure that the child comes to them as ready as possible for learning. And then I think that's really getting to the parents. My wife and I donated money to a school district in Wisconsin that we're very close to in Janesville. And one of the things the teachers did, we paid for teachers to a group to travel to the United States and look at schools that are having success in a very impoverished area.
Okay.
Because one of the challenges we all have is, whether it's always free lunches or it's poverty, well,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
I understand.
So you find places that have that are successful.
Exactly.
So they went to Kentucky, the mountains of Kentucky, a very poor school district that's outperformed them.
Okay.
So that takes that excuse away.
Exactly.
And what they found was about 2 weeks before school started, the teachers were paid and they did home visits to all the parents that were going to have a child in their classroom. And it could be home, it could be work, it could be a coffee shop, bodacious coffee.
I hear you.
to talk about their child.
Right.
And create that relationship. Because, you know, sometimes when you do a parent-teacher conference, not all the parents show up. And sometimes the sad part is maybe the first time you talk to the parent, it's when there's a problem. And you build relationships talking when it's not a problem.
Most certainly.
So I thought that was pretty interesting, and that ties into that parent engagement piece and that trust. Because when I speak, I'll ask everybody in the room, how many of you can remember a teacher that's had an impact, a huge impact, positive impact?
Right.
And 100% of the hands go up.
Of course. That's I can relate to that.
But see, it's interesting for teachers. So if I'm in healthcare, and not it's all positive, but the reality is, if you come in and have a baby, that nurse and doctor get the positive feedback right away.
Of course they do.
A good friend of mine's in the hospital right now, and you know, his wife is very appreciative of the clinicians doing things, and she's telling him thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right.
Teachers might not hear that.
I agree.
They don't hear it. So I think, so we're trying to create a culture that's built on positivity, not negativity. That the first time we don't talk, it's not something wrong. One of the things I encourage principals to do is take an hour each day to schedule to call parents. Because you usually get a call from the principal.
Ooh, what's wrong?
What's
Well, my
going
kid
on
is
here?
done.
And just say, hey, I'm calling parents. Tell them before the year I'm going to be calling you.
Right.
And you ask, hey, you know, and file a little bit about, you know, little Linda in the classroom here. And you know, Linda's socializing quite a bit in the classroom. But, you know, we talk about, okay, tell me what's going well. And I'd say 99% of the time the parent's going to tell you positive things about the teacher.
Right.
Well, then when I go into that classroom and I say, you know, Miss Buns, I just wanted to let you know I was talking to, you know, Miss Moore. You know, you have her little daughter Linda here.
Yeah.
And she's so happy with the way you're teaching her daughter. She had all these positive things to say. So, you know, I think we live in a society where people are more likely to point out what's wrong.
I agree. Now, since we're talking about education, and I want to shift a little bit, because I know in my community it's taken a huge effect when it comes to education, knowledge of what's happening with a lot of our history. Even when it comes to that, and I can speak on this because my mother an educator, my sister an educator, but how do you feel about the fact, Quint, with the things that are being taken out of the schools, for instance, like with the history, the Black history that's being taken away? And I tell our viewers every day, even in my community, that we cannot allow us not to educate our young people on that as well, because we are Black history. So we got to continue to teach that Black history ourselves. But I would like to see what your views are, because so many things that are it's affecting us. When I say us, I'm reaching to my community right now. That's affecting us in a harmful way. And that, even with the fact of some of the holidays, the recognition of the things that's being taken away from us that so many have fought and died for, that we can have at this day and time. And it affects me, because it bothers me that it is. I'll even go back to say, even with the Black history recognition, even with the Dr. King, those things that are being removed, and especially even with the Black history, I think, that's being removed from the school systems. That is so important for our young people of color to continue.
Well, let me be probably a little bit go the other way with you.
Okay.
I think sometimes what you can change and what you can't.
I agree.
And to me, if you go to Bruce Beach and you take your child to Bruce Beach and you walk through Bruce Beach, which I was very involved in, you can read all about the Black history here in Pensacola. So who should be the teacher? You know, before there were the school systems,
that's right.
Before there were the big public school systems, even in earliest generations, where did people learn history?
Right.
They learned it from their families.
Of course.
So I think we have to also take ownership of not delegate the teaching of our children to the public school system on our history.
Right.
And so to me, remember, and you can see it, the stories, the telling. So again, I think churches can play a big part of history. So I think you can, and of course, as you know, I'm a huge believer in a selected superintendent of schools. And I think our school board should be looking at always and that. So I think we can always say somebody else should be doing something, but if I'm particularly a person of color, and I don't think my child's getting the Black history education in the school district, shouldn't I be the one taking ownership of that?
I hear you.
That's where I'm coming from.
I hear you.
I think that's where the history sits.
Right. Somebody has a question for you too, Quint.
Sure.
Let's see about this. Not cutting you off, but it's been ringing over and over. Good morning. Did I hit the right button? Let's see here. No, I did. Good morning.
Shouldn't I be the one taking ownership?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Haley.
Hi, Haley.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
It's a wonderful day. I've been tuned in to what y'all have been talking about. I think this is great dialogue. Thank you so much,
You're so welcome.
Quint, even, for just giving the feedback. And I think that we need to display more of our Black history right here all around town because it's so much and it's so rich. But, you know, we all should be a part of that. We need to have a well-rounded community of folks that are helping to teach the history, and it shouldn't just lay on the school system, but I think we all need to take part in it, of being in all those different places.
I agree.
So that's all I have to say. That's my feedback. But I also wanted to plug that I cannot wait to see you Friday at Gallery Night as our guest judge. Ooh, it's going to be so much fun. Where, for those of you who are listening, DJ Hill will be your host for the main stage at Gallery Night, Dancing in the Streets. And we are going to have Sonshine as our celebrity guest judge, and it is going to be a great time, so make sure that y'all come down and see us. And I can't wait to see you, as always, my mother. And y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you.
Of course.
Have a wonderful one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing to talk with Quint Studer. We got to go take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about education right here, Sunshine's Corner.
Welcome to Little John's Big and Tall, where tall men and big men go for style, fit, and comfort. We offer a wide variety of styles and unique brands that service all sizes from large to 14X, as well as tall sizes from large tall to 6X tall. Our knowledgeable staff are here to make sure you have a stress-free experience and answer any of your questions. Little John's has been named Best of Pensacola and Best of the Bay for 4 years in a row. Visit Little John's at 5700 North Davis or visit us online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com.
I'm Gabe Alamont, and I approve this message.
Change is happening in Washington, D.C., but the politicians don't understand that prices are still too high. Gay Valamont gets it. She has a plan to reduce home insurance rates by 25% and to cap insulin costs at $35 for everyone. Jimmy Petronas, all he talks about is his life and business in Panama City. Not one idea to reduce costs for our families. Jimmy Petronas, we just can't afford him in Congress.
Empire Truck Sales, located at 2255 West Detroit Boulevard in Pensacola, is your Freightliner, Western Star, Detroit Diesel, and Cummins dealer for Northwest Florida. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., providing sales, service, and parts. Empire Truck Sales is also your Oasis dealer for Freightliner custom chassis RV and motorhome repairs. Running I-10 will get you in.
Well, I think it's all about local, and I'm a big believer in local. So I think anytime you can carry a message out locally, it's important. And I think it's anytime the person that delivers the service can also deliver the message, which is unusual. You have the people that actually deliver the project doing the talking, and I think that's a huge difference, and really makes a huge value difference for the consumer. So I'm really just so grateful that we have this local opportunity with Blab TV. My name is Quint Studer, and I am Blab TV.
And welcome back to Sunshine's Corner on this beautiful, beautiful day on the outside. We are talking with Quint Studer, and I tell you a lot of things that we're covering, but I gotta go back to something he said was off stage, off camera, when we were talking about how we celebrate Juneteenth with the fact that you brought in right here to the Wahoo Stadium.
Well, we do it all the time. We showed the movie 42. We brought in the people. We showed the documentary A Long Time Coming, which actually featured 1955 all black.
But
Little
team,
League
I saw
team.
that. Mm-hmm.
We've brought in, just various people, and so I think you can do it, but I really think it's then, do you show up? Do people, again, one finger pointing, 3 fingers pointing back, and and that's what we're talking about.
Exactly, that's exactly what we're
trying
to
Who should be teaching history?
Exactly, exactly.
And the nice part about when your family teaches history, like my mother can make my relatives look so much smarter than we really are.
I'm here to say, we got another call, Quint.
Your old kid.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Sunshine. Good morning, Mr. Studer.
Good morning.
I just wanted to make a quick comment that this show has really inspired me, because I realize now that there's this program, there's people who are really trying to do something to prepare the kids. and it's starting early.
Right.
And so I just think that's great the way they're doing it, starting in hospitals. I just wanted to ask Mr. Studer what he thought about the future of education, and I don't mean to put him on the spot, but it's the future of education now that they're trying to do so much with the Department of Education. And I'll hang up and let him answer.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think the future of education is really a local answer.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's the school board making sure that they have the right superintendent, because the superintendent is the key to this thing.
Okay.
And I think I don't mind bringing money back to the state.
Right.
I always like to keep the money close to home.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if you look at education, I was talking to some people in Wisconsin recently, and they were talking about education, and Janet Pilcher, we have a national expert right here in town.
Okay,
called Janet
exactly.
Pilcher, who actually runs something called Studer Education.
Uh-huh.
They work with over 2,000 school districts now in the United States. I don't own it. I did, but you know, she owns it now.
Okay.
Which is great. Locally owned, my female locally owned business right here in town that's very successful. And if you look at her research and her data, it's really the principal. Mm-hmm. If you have, it's the right principal at the right school. So I'm again, I tend to be optimistic. But to be optimistic, first thing you have to do is not con yourself. And that's why I love the fact that we have data.
Right.
Because people love to get up and say things.
Right.
And I'm also like specifics.
Right.
And when people say, well, a lot of, well, tell me how many a lot is. So once we show, I love the fact that the state measures kindergarten readiness. Mm-hmm. Because it's really hard to move something if you're not measuring it.
Most certainly, I agree with that.
And I like that. I like we're making progress. And the beauty is we know what to do. So we know when a mom watches this video, mm-hmm. it's peer-reviewed research. On peer-reviewed research, what that means is the people take the data and they give it to objective people to look at the data, mm-hmm. and then decide, is this something that is can you duplicate it?
Okay.
Or is it something that happened because it's here?
Okay.
So peer-reviewed research data is sort of the magic word to say that this is valid, reliable material. Mm-hmm. So we know the answer. And now it's us, and I talk us, Studer Community Institute, helping the hospitals understand the power that nurse has in helping that mom see the video. And you know, the principal at Global Learning that spoke up, Light Up Learning, or the kindergarten teacher, got emotional.
Didn't she? Yes, she did.
She got emotional about how important this is. Mm-hmm. So I think, one, we're pretty fortunate. Now, I'm whining a little bit about only being at 50%.
Right.
But most cities are doing nothing. So we still have 3 hospitals that are doing something.
Most certainly.
Most places aren't doing it at all. In fact, when I go in a community and I show them how to build a vibrant community, I have education up there. Uh-huh. I have 4 boxes, and one of them's education, and they're right away going to public education. And then when I say to them, no, it starts in the hospitals. Okay. And they'll look at me like,
hospitals?
And then I tell them why. And I was in California, in Modesto, and it's amazing because they immediately knew what their kindergarten readiness
Most certainly.
was.
We're down to our last 4 minutes. I want you to think we've had such an array of information shared today, and as you can see, even the caller said that they're glad that we have this. They're grateful for it. If you want to finish this sentence I'm about to ask you, how would you finish this? The world needs more of what?
I think that there's more love. I think that, you're not going to, beating people up and being mean, and it might get sound bites. And I'm talking about not one party, both party.
Exactly.
I went to an event last night in the community, and you can get a lot of rah, rah, rah. But the reality is, it's kindness. So and it's understanding. So when my good friend John Meislick was passing away 5 years ago now, young, 54 years old, the one thing he said while he was dying is make sure you tell people you love them. And I think people are a little stunned if they know me, because I'll very much give a hug and tell somebody I love them.
I can attest to that.
And it's meant. So I think it's less judgment, more love.
Right.
And less pointing out who should be solving a problem.
Right.
And being a solution person. I point out, anyone can point out a problem.
Right.
It's not hard.
At all.
And then we feel a little superior because we're pointing out a problem.
Most certainly.
But I don't need problem finders. I need solution bringers.
I agree. Well, I tell you, we're down to the raw now. It has been a great conversation. I tell you, I could sit here and talk to you all day long. And I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to share with our viewers the things that you're doing, and we only touched the surface. And how can I say it other than thank you?
Well, thank you, and thank you for being on the board of the Studer Community Institute.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I'm learning
important.
so much there because I believe it's like you said, when you learn something, you do more, and you know more, you do more. I appreciate the fact that I'm there, that I'm learning, and I'm able to apply because my heart belongs to the community.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that every day, if we learn something, we can apply it, share it with somebody else, and we can grow in a better way. And I thank you for allowing me to be a part of that as well. Thank you.
Love you, Sunshine.
I love you too. Everybody, I tell you, it has been a fantastic day. And I want to say to you, I appreciate you and your thoughts because I tell you every day, without you, there would be no me. I'm going to leave you as I do every single day. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Never, ever, ever lose your focus. Always remember this. If you keep God first in whatever you do, I can guarantee you this, you will be a total success. So until tomorrow, and I'm going to have young people in, I want to hear where their hearts are. So let's talk to them together tomorrow right here on Sunshine's Corner. Until then, know that I love you with a perfect kind of love, my dear friends. Keep shining while I'm gone. Have a great day, and thank you, Quint.
Thank you.
Sunshine's Corner, being brought to you by Quint and Richie Studer.